Welcome to Parenting Decoded. I'm so happy that you have decided to try to up your game in communicating with your teens and tweens. The teen years can be so difficult, and it only gets harder when our teens pull away from us and we can't communicate with them. What I want to do in this presentation is to give you some really practical advice on how to communicate effectively with your teen at the right time. I'm going to start by first going over what we're going to talk about. We are first going to talk about how we might be communicating with our teens right now and what that implies. What is it that we're doing when we're communicating today with our teens? And when might be the best time to talk to our teenagers? First thing I'm going to talk about is three types of parents. There's helicopter parents, there's drill sergeant parents, and there's consultant parents. And I'm going to talk about those three types of parents because each of those parenting techniques has complications or positives, negatives about them. And I'm going to go over them. First up, helicopter parents. How do they communicate? When we're a helicopter parent, and I happen to be really familiar with this technique because that's what I was. I was nagging and hovering over my kids. I have two boys and they're now in their mid-20s, but when they were young, I was just trying to be the best loving parent possible. I was just trying to make sure that their world was just perfect. And by doing that, I was misrepresenting how life was. My kid, especially my younger kid, he just sopped up all the helicoptering that I had to do, that I had to give in my heart, because I could try to make the world perfect. And as life went on, he kept being disappointed. Every time he hit a bump in the road, he was disappointed at it. He was either sad or mad or frustrated or whatever. And I would run around trying to make things better. But at the same time, I was actually causing more problems than I even understood. I was doing it out of love. I wasn't a yeller or screamer kind of parent, but that helicoptering really impacted my son's ability to solve his own problems. If something went wrong, oftentimes it would be my fault or someone else's fault. And we want our kids to be able to take responsibility for the issues and their success as well as their failures in life. So what we do as helicopter parents is we're always trying to fix things when they go wrong. We try to fix it instead of teaching them how to fix that. So a little bit of a complication, huh? How about a drill sergeant? A drill sergeant, just like it sounds, it's somebody who's going to yell and tell their kids what to do. And when we are yelling and telling our kids, we don't really want to hear any discussion, right? Because the reason why we're yelling or telling our kids what to do is because we already know what to do. We know the best answer. We know how to do it fastest. We already can get rid of anything that would cause a slowdown. If you have a bunch of kids that have to get out to school in the morning and you got to get off to work, it's kind of a complication when you have a discussion about how to get ready in the morning. So what happens is that our children might have an opinion about how to do something, how to do their homework, how to get ready in the morning or go to bed or whatever. And we really don't want to hear about it. So we shut down their brains. We don't care. We don't listen. We don't look for input. We don't allow our child to try to solve their problems because we already know the answer. And that just kind of gets our kids into this mode of being lazy because they don't want to try to say their opinion because we don't really care what it is. So we wind up shutting down their brains. And as we shut down those opinions over time, especially when they're heading into the tween and teen years, they don't want to be around us. They know we won't listen to them anyway. They know that we think that we always know the right answers. And, disappointingly enough in life, when they get to be teenagers, they start learning that we don't know everything. And if we aren't having a good relationship with them and communicating with them, we might not be able to have a discussion about what the best way to handle screen time is or what the best way to handle friendship pressures or whatever. And we need to keep them close in those years. And here we are, a drill sergeant might be actually shutting down their brain so they're not willing to even think about different ways of doing things. And at the same time, driving them away from us because we're yelling all the time. How about a consultant type parent? I want to say that the consultant type parent is somebody who's willing to chat and talk to their kids. One of the ways I like to think of it is that some people who watch these videos, they might be a consultant by trade, or maybe you've hired a consultant. And a consultant is somebody who comes alongside you and they don't lecture you. They'll listen. They'll show respect for your opinions. I like to think of the example of who your best friend is. Us being adults, we hopefully have a best friend or two. Maybe it's our spouse. Maybe it's just a best friend. And why do we like being with that best friend? Oftentimes, it's because we feel respected, because we have fun together, because they can give us opinions without being judgy. Maybe sometimes they are, but it's like you want to be with that person, that best friend. And I'm not talking about being a best friend with your child, but I'm talking about showing that respect and being able to have fun and being able to have a relationship that's not where somebody's always lecturing somebody else, and not where somebody's always hovering, expecting a kid to do something wrong. So one of the ways that a consultant parent does this is they do something that I call seizing the moment. And seizing the moment is where, as our kids get into, I call it tween and teenhood, but probably starting around 11 years old, sometimes 10, but certainly by 12 or 13, they don't want us to, as soon as they come home from school, or as soon as we see them, say like, okay, how did it go? How was the test? How was your friendships? How was this? How was that? How much homework do you have? What are you going to do? Where we're grilling them. They really do not appreciate spotlights. They don't want us to spotlight them. But if we allow the spotlight to be turned off from all of our questioning, because for sure, I want to know the answers to all those questions. I want to know who they're hanging out with. I want to know how they feel about their teachers and all that. But I'm going to turn off the spotlight. And the way to do that is you do something with them. You can play games with them. One of the things that I like to do at my house, I like to make puzzles. Some families do, or they like to play board games. You could even play video games or card games with your kids. But one of my favorite things to say is that if you're going to play games as a chill time to get this, seizing the moment where your kids are going to relax and they're not going to feel like they're going to be quizzed. Okay. So you're going to be playing some card game, and you want to make sure that whatever game you pick, whether it's board game or whatever, that it's not very competitive, that it's easy to win, easy to lose, that lots of things happen. There's a favorite card game that I talk about when I give this lecture, and it's called King's Corner. It's a really simple card game. It's a lot like solitaire, if you happen to know how to play solitaire, but look it up on the internet, King's Corner. And in that game, you play around in about 5 minutes, maybe 10 at the most. But as my kids were growing up, we would bring a deck of cards with us to a restaurant. And we would just sit, and while we were waiting for the waiter to bring us our food or whatever, or even if we were at someplace like Togo's and we were just eating our sandwiches, we would play a round or two, and it would just be fun. Somebody would mess up and they wouldn't see a card laid out or whatever. And there were enough iterations of the game that no one person always won. So you want to pick a game or an activity that not one person always wins. That's why I like puzzles. Like puzzles, there's lots of pieces, and you just kind of chill and you play those games. But you could also do other things. That if your kid doesn't like games, you could garden with them. You could just go for a drive in the car, like no electronics. You could go on a hike. You could do some sort of art project. They have those not paint by number, but those clay painting places, or do an art class or something like that. But do something together that is not academics, that is not about their friends, and don't bring along other members of your family. Do a one-on-one with each kid so that you have this time to do seizing the moment with them. Now I want to move on. Now that you have some ideas about how do you chill by picking up a seizing the moment where you're just going on a walk or something like that, I want to talk about when you are nagging, what is it that you're communicating to your kid? So think about someone nagging you, like you're the kid and someone's nagging me. Like, what do they think of me? Like, why are they nagging me? It's like, I want to say that I would feel like somebody didn't trust me, that they thought it was stupid, that they thought it was lazy, that they thought I couldn't do it. That's why they have to nag me. So here I am, the parent, nagging my kid, thinking that I'm being quote unquote helpful. And actually, all I'm communicating to them when I'm doing that, I'm communicating that they're not trustworthy, that I don't believe that they're going to do it. That's why I have to worry about it and nag them. How about when someone's yelling at me? If somebody's yelling at me, I kind of feel the same way. I feel fear. I feel like I want to get away from that person. I do not want to be around somebody who's yelling at me. So if I know I'm going to be in trouble, I want to hide. I want to back away. And if somebody's yelling at me, it basically is saying that they don't like me, that they think I'm stupid, and all those kinds of things that nagging also brings out. And if somebody's telling me what to do all the time, same thing. I think that they think I'm stupid. Like they have to tell me how to wake up in the morning because I can't figure it out on my own. They have to tell me how to pack my lunch. They have to tell me how to do my homework or arrange my schedule or something like that. It's like I'm too stupid to do it myself. How about if someone's chatting with me, talking to me? They're having a discussion with me. I feel better about myself. I feel like what I'm saying, that the person's willing to listen, that they're not going to interrupt me, that they're going to give me ideas back and forth instead of just lecturing me. I like being with that person. So, So the thing I want to point out is that sometimes when you communicate, you're communicating confidence in your kids, but sometimes what we're doing is we're actually communicating incompetence, or we're being helpful. A lot of times we helicopter parents, we're trying to be helpful, but we wind up just interfering. We wind up robbing our kids of the opportunities to solve their own issues and become self-confident in themselves to be able to handle issues in the future. So what do you want to do? Well, I want to propose that when you tell somebody something, that what is even more important than what we say really is important when we're telling our kids what to do or whatever. What we say is important, but I want to say that when is even more important. Because if we say it when their brain is closed, we aren't going to be able to get much progress. When their brain is closed is when emotion is involved. It could be that they're mad at us. It could be that they're sad and they're crying. It could be that they just are yelling themselves. And when that is happening is not the time to communicate with them, because as emotion is involved, when our kid is upset, whether it's crying or whether it's yelling and being mad, their brain is shut down. There's a part of the brain called the amygdala that's our fight and flight part of our brain. When it's activated, all of our blood flows to that part of our brain. When it flows to that part of the brain, it means our prefrontal cortex is being robbed of blood flow. And when our prefrontal cortex, which is where we make good decisions, is closed for business, it means that our kids aren't going to be able to even think about what the right thing is to do. If they messed up and we're yelling at them or telling them what to do and they're already upset, they're not even going to be listening. So I want you to save your breath, and I want you to do something called going brain dead. When you go brain dead, you basically don't react when they're yelling at you, telling you you're the worst mom in the entire planet, or that was so stupid, or leave me alone, or whatever. I want you to not react. I want you to just say, oh, I know. It's like, you're so stupid, Mom. I know. Wow. That's so sad. That was so dumb, Mom, that you did this. I know. That's so sad. So you're kind of just going to take it. You'll even walk away if you have to. But the reason I want you to be able to take it and just put up with it is because I want you to have the ability to come back later when things calm down and talk to them. I want you to ask them if they are ready to talk about whatever the issue was. And as you ask them, I also want you to be able to, as both brains are back online, because sometimes our brains get triggered when our kids are yelling at us. They'll say something stupid like, Mom, you never helped me at all. And then we start saying like, I do too. I just helped you do this or that or whatever. And it's like we're defending ourselves. It's like, I don't want you to defend yourself. I want you to take it at the time, because nobody is going to make any progress when somebody's yelling back and forth. I do too. You do too. No, like that. All the brain activity is offline. Nobody's going to make any good decisions until everyone calms down. So once you take that, could be a 15-minute calm down. It could be 2 hours later. It could be the next day. With teenagers, it might be a week later, but I want you to ask, are you ready to talk about this now? And when they are ready to talk about it, I want you to use that time to come up with ideas about how to solve it. But I want you to have that communication time, to be that consultant parent who's there to listen and talk. And I want you to also have that opportunity to say, you called me a really mean mom, and that really hurt my feelings. And then is when you're going to get their brain to say, like, Mom, that was really mean. I'm so sorry. I was so upset. And oftentimes your kid will apologize on their own if you give them the opportunity when they're calm to say, I'm sorry. I wouldn't necessarily demand it, but I would definitely, when things are calm, stand up for myself and let them know in a calm and loving voice how much something hurt that they said to you. It's like, you said that I didn't ever help you. Well, that really hurt my feelings because I do help you a lot. So I'm sorry if you thought that, and, have a discussion about what it is that's helpful or not. So ask when things calm down, because sometimes you might have this little problem where you say, honey, are you ready to talk about that homework episode? And they might say, no. So that shows that their brain's closed and you're not going to push it. You're going to ask the next day or whatever. You're having trouble with that teacher. Are you ready to talk about that now? No, he's driving me crazy. It's like, okay, well, maybe Saturday at 2:00, would that work? Maybe, you could suggest something like that. But I want you to also, so the first technique that I just gave you, it's called going brain dead. So we're basically going to take the fight out of our dialoguing with our kids. When they're upset and they're fighting with us and they want a fighting partner, we're not going to be that. We're going to go calm. We're going to go brain dead. The other thing I want you to do is that we don't do enough of is we don't notice. I want you to notice, not nagging. I want you to notice something like, oh, I noticed you put a new shirt on today. I noticed you wore your new sneakers. I noticed that you straightened up your room. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to give a value judgment of like, oh my gosh, you did a really great job, or, not make too big a deal out of it. I noticed you parted your hair on the other side. And again, no other extra things, just notice. One of the things I like to do when I'm giving this presentation in person is I like to say, like, I noticed your earrings. And when you say that to somebody, or I noticed you're wearing a blue shirt, it's like people go like, oh, wow, somebody noticed something about me. Just, I noticed you're wearing your red shirt. It's like, just notice something, just to basically say, like, instead of it just being a blah figure going through your day, just say, I noticed that you dyed your hair a different color, that kind of stuff. So, and as you use notice, if they didn't notice themselves, I noticed you cleaned up your papers or something like that. I did not. I'm like, okay. We're not going to argue with them about what it was. Just like, okay. Just keep calm. Don't push is what it is. Now I'm going to talk to you. We talked again about going brain dead. The other thing that I want you to do with your teens and tweens is I want you to set loving limits. And as you set loving limits, what it is it's where you state what you will do. Oftentimes in our households, we spend a lot of time about telling our kids what we won't do for them. I'm not going to take you to the store if you're going to treat me like that. I'm not going to do your laundry since you put it in the wrong place. I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. And it just sends a really negative feeling throughout our whole house. So what I want you to do is state what you will do. I drive kids to the store who've done their chores. I take kids to the birthday party who have cooked dinner. I don't know, but you want to keep it positive, whatever it is. You're going to leave off all the negative stuff and just flip it to the positive. I watch movies on the couch with kids who've taken a shower. I give allowance to kids who have kept a clean room all week. I allow kids to have a cell phone who are using it positively. That kind of stuff. I'm not going to lecture. I'm just going to say what I'm going to do. I drive kids to school who are ready at 7:30 in the morning. And there's obviously an implication of like, something should be happening if they aren't ready by 7:30 in the morning. And you should have a discussion about what that might be. It might be like, that's so sad, especially if you have a teenager. gosh, I guess you're going to have to pay for an Uber to get to school, or you're going to walk to school, or whatever it is that they know ahead of time what the, like, mom lovingly does something or dad lovingly does something. And that means that they're not going to do something. Like if they haven't showered, it means they're not going to be sitting on the couch watching that movie that they've been dying to watch with you. But if they have showered, it's obvious what the kind of reward is. So you keep in mind how to flip things in your house. Like, I serve dinner to kids who've set the table. That means that somebody's not getting dinner until the table's set. Or I serve dinner until 6:30 p.m., which implies that something happens after 6:30 p.m. and somebody doesn't get dinner. And you just make it known. And you have to make your yes mean yes and your no mean no. You have to hold to it. The other thing I want you to do, so we got brain dead and we got setting loving limits. The other thing I want you to do with your teens is to give them lots of choices. They just want to control their lives. I want to control my life too. And sharing control with your teens as much as possible is huge. It will help your relationship and your communication if you give them choices. You give them choices so that you're not cornering them into a box. Take out the trash now. When I say that, and I might mean it, when I say that though, my kid has a chance of giving me two answers, right? No or yes. And that's a 50-50 chance of getting no. It might, in some houses, it might be a really lot higher chance of getting a no. So I'm going to instead not corner myself into a box either. I'm going to say, would you like to take out the trash before dinner or before you start watching a movie? I really don't care which one, because I've given only choices that I liked. And those two choices are very acceptable to me, and I'm not going to nag them or anything like that. They pick after dinner before the movie, and I'm like, okay. So I set a loving limit. I watch movies with kids who've done their chores, and that was one of the ones that they checked. So I might be watching the movie alone if that chore isn't done. But I lovingly do that. It's like, oh, this is so sad. Yeah, you chose and yeah, you didn't do it. So there do have to be consequences when choices aren't that are chosen aren't done. But I want to say though, a lot of the times you just avoid conflict completely by giving them a choice. Would you like to do your homework on the dinner table, or would you like to do it on your bed? It's like you don't really care. So we got brain dead, we got setting loving limits, we got giving choices, and now I want you to think about allowing mistakes. Allowing our kids to make mistakes, it really builds confidence in them if we do it lovingly. If we allow them to make a mistake with empathy. Oh, wow, you forgot to do your homework assignment and it's due this morning. That's so sad. Instead of what we might be saying if we were a drill sergeant, and might say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you didn't do that. I told you to do that last night, blah, 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 blah. Well, if we're yelling at our kid, it's going to make them not want to tell me that they even forgot to do their homework, although I might figure it out because their grade might not be very good. But we want to allow them through love to be able to say, I know, Mom, I really planned my time badly. It's like, no problem. When you get home from school, what if we sit on the couch and try to figure that out? We want to allow them to be able to make a mistake and know that there's a way that they can maybe not make the mistake the next time. And if they are making repeated mistakes, it's opportunity for us to problem solve and teach them how to solve problems. Because every day as we're adults, we solve problems. We solve problems every day, all the way from what am I having for breakfast is a problem because maybe I don't have eggs in the house, or maybe there's a traffic jam on the freeway and I have to go around it. And so I'm going to use Waze, or I'm going to use Google Maps, whatever. It's like we have to solve problems all the time. Those happen to be small problems, relatively small problems, but we want our kids to know that as a problem happens, that there's ways to solve it. We don't have to break down. We don't have to fall apart. We can see it as a growth opportunity. There's a book that I love called Grit, and it talks a lot about growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. And kids who aren't allowed to make mistakes, or they're being yelled at or whatever, whenever they do make a mistake, they start wanting to hide and not having their brain activated to be able to think of how you solve problems. So A helicopter parent's going to interfere with mistakes because we're going to try to fix everything before there is a mistake, or if there is, we'll go solve it quickly. Oh, I'll help you do your homework really quick. And a drill sergeant's going to yell and make the kid feel bad, probably. And we don't want that. We want them to say, oh, wow, I bet there's going to be some more homework coming down the pipe, and I bet you're going to figure this out. And if you want any help, kid, I'm happy to help figure out a schedule or whatever it is that you need. I love you. I know that you're smart. I know that you'll figure it out. So all those things, we want to try to get away from nagging, from yelling and telling, and we want to move into this consultant mode. So I'm going to talk now. I'm doing this, I call it a listening improvement test drive, because a lot of the times this involves us not listening and trying to figure out how to work with our kids, right? We're not communicating well. So what kind of options, if our kid is having trouble knowing when to do their homework? With these new skills that we have, what is it that we can do? Well, we could use choices. We could say, would you like to do your homework before dinner or after dinner? Would you like to do it after school or before dinner? Would you like to, we just give them choices. Would you like to do your social studies first, or would you like to do your English homework first? Would you like dad to help you with the vocabulary, or would you like me to help you with math? Would you like to do your homework in the living room, or would you like to do it in the dining room? All of those, again, are choices. They're all fine by me, and it engages our child's mind. We want their brain to be activated to know that, like, I don't know, do I feel like doing my homework in the living room today or on the kitchen table? I have a lot of books, so maybe on the kitchen table would make more sense. It's like, and maybe the next day you ask the same question. Do you want to do it in the living room or on the kitchen table? It's like, well, I got English reading to do. I'll do it in the living room. It's like, I didn't care either way. I just wanted them to make a choice about when to do their homework. I can also go brain dead. Like, oh man, I have so much homework. Oh, it's like, oh, that's so sad. I bet you'll figure it out. That's how brain dead works in the homework situation. You can give empathy, like, oh yeah, homework really can be overwhelming. Just love them through it. Like, would you like a hug? I love it when parents do something like that, just something sweet and thoughtful and loving, instead of saying like, well, you really should sit down and write down a schedule of what you're going to do. Instead of start with love. Like, would you like a hug? Sounds like it's going to be a really long night. How about when to go to bed? A lot of parents have difficulty with teenagers getting to bed. And again, you can give them choices. Would you like to go to bed at 9:30 or 10? Would you like to take a shower at night, or would you like to take one in the morning? Because maybe they're taking too long in the shower and getting to bed late. I want you to know that, in my opinion, by the time your child gets to high school, you shouldn't be telling them when to go to bed. For sure, by the time they're a junior in high school. Now, that seems like a little scary for a lot of parents, because our kids want to stay up super late. And we know how important sleep is. I absolutely know how important sleep is. But the thing is that I need to train my kid in a loving manner how to take care of their own sleep. And I'm going to have discussions with them. I'm going to turn off the spotlight. I'm going to go play cards and say Sally, I noticed that you're having trouble getting to sleep, enough sleep. What do you think you could do about that? And I'm going to take the time to be able to give her empathy. I'm like, yeah, it is hard to do all your homework if you're on social media. Wow, what are you going to do about that? That's so sad. I'm so sorry. Because waking up in the morning is another thing that we deal with. And sometimes it has to do, again, with choices like, I give kids hot breakfast who are up by 7 a.m. And I give kids, and they get cold cereal at 7:15. Which would you like? It's like, I'm not going to yell or scream or anything, but I just give them some choices about when to wake up too. Would you like to wake up at 7 or 6:45? I don't really care, because I know that they could get themselves to school on time. Or it might be, would you like one alarm clock or two? Again, waking themselves up is really important skill. And by the time they're in middle school, even, I really do believe middle school, I shouldn't be waking up my kids. You shouldn't be waking up your kids. You should be working with your kids to try to solve the problem of them not waking up on time, if they're not waking up on time. Do they need 2 alarms? Do they need one that's a music alarm and one that's not a music alarm? Do they need to have, I don't know what, do they need to have not so many blankets on so that they don't snuggle up so long? I really don't care, but I want them to own waking themselves up. And one of the things that happens is they've stayed up so late. Our last slide about giving them choices and stuff when they go to bed. But they stay up so late, they're really tired. And so we can give them empathy in the morning, like, oh, wow, I can see that you're really tired. That must suck. Do you need a hug? I want them to own their own waking up. And every time I wake them up, come in and wake them up, I worry about them getting up and not getting up. That means that I've interrupted their own set of responsibilities. Again, by being a helicopter or a drill sergeant parent, we mean to be loving. We mean to make sure that they get everything done in life. But if we do that, it's our responsibility for them waking up or for them going to bed. And we need them to own it. We need them to figure out before they get out of our house and go off to college, we need them to figure out how to wake themselves up. And isn't it wonderful that you have 7 short years, whatever, 4 short years if they're in high school, to figure out what to do when you wake up late? You need to figure that out. And you're going to set loving limits. Like I was saying, that it could be a loving limit of like, I serve hot breakfast to kids who are up by 7 a.m. That implies that I don't serve hot breakfast to kids who wake up later. But I'm not going to take the negative part of that. Again, I'm going to make them be loving limits. I'm going to make them be positive. And you can do that. How about electronics? What do you do about getting off electronics? It's like you can give them choices. You can say, would you like to charge your electronics in mom and dad's room? Or would you like to charge them on the kitchen counter? Would you like to charge them at 10 p.m. at night or 10:30 p.m.? Would you like to charge them at 6 p.m. or at 8 p.m.? Any of those are legit. It's fine. It's like I allow kids to have electronics who are using them responsibly. And you're going to have a big discussion about what responsible electronics is. I have another seminar that I do called Screen Time Battles, how to avoid them. Also, it's in a podcast. And I would, if you're having trouble with electronics, I would go listen to those lectures as well, those seminars, because it's really useful in trying to gain information about what the right thing to do is with teens and tweens. But the best advice I have for you is that it's good communication skills that are going to get you through all this parenthood stuff with teens and tweens. And if you don't have good communication skills, it's going to impact your ability to work with your kids and to be able to solve problems and stuff like that. I want to direct you towards my podcast. I have a number of podcasts that are dedicated towards issues with teens. A lot of people have trouble with their kids respecting them and the kids being on an emotional roller coaster all the time. In podcast number 2, I talk a lot about that roller coasterness, how to have punishments versus consequences, like how do you set good, loving consequences. I have a podcast about anger management, and I mentioned the screen time issues. I have family meetings. I think it's really important to communicate as a family issues of things that are going on. I also have a YouTube channel that has a bunch of the other seminars that I do. And I just released a new seminar that you would be really smart to go listen to. It's called Launching Your Teens. It teaches all about life skills, some of which I've mentioned in this video, but it really goes step by step how to get your kids to do chores and how to get them to understand budgeting and what kind of things do they need to do to learn before they get out of your house. Lastly, how to get a hold of me. You can email me at any time if you have questions. You can go to my website. I have a parenting Facebook group. It's actually called Parenting Decoded. No year anymore. Sorry about that. And on Instagram, I have an Instagram account and I do a monthly newsletter. Go to my website and sign up for it. You'll be able to keep up with what I'm doing, and I have little blurbs that I do. Same with the Facebook group. I do teach Love and Logic classes in the Bay Area occasionally, and you can hire a parenting coach. I do Zoom coaching over the internet, and I would love to help you. I think that it's really important to communicate with our kids, our teens and tweens. You can have a great relationship. And even if you find that you have a lot of tendencies towards being a drill sergeant or towards being a helicopter, you can change and move forward into a new realm of parenting. I learned a lot of these techniques when my kids were in middle school and early high school, and it allowed me to let my kids solve their own problems and be responsible for things like sleep and electronics and um, all those kind of, how to get homework done and how to deal with teachers and getting assignments done. And it really made a difference. And we have a very loving relationship today. And by doing all these techniques, it really helped out. Anyway, I hope you have a blessed rest of your day and have found this really useful. Thanks for listening.